Selati Lion Coalition, the nightmare of Mapogo Lions. Every superhero has their weakness, every Goliath has their David. And when it comes to the deadliest and seemingly most untouchable coalition of lions to ever walk the grounds of Africa, that would be the Mapogo Lions. They were ruthless and dominating, and they ruled the Sabi Sand Reserve of South Africa with 6 iron fists for several years. But their rule didn't last forever. Just like the Roman Empire fell, the Mapogo Lion Coalition eventually met their match, the Selati Lion Coalition. So, what is the story about the Lion Coalition that took down the deadliest lion coalition ever? Were they deadlier than deadliest? Because that sounds terrifying. Just how scary was the Selati Lion Coalition? Lion coalitions. To understand the significance of the Selati Coalition and the Mapogo Coalition, you need to first understand lion coalitions and prides in general. Most people are familiar with a pride of lions. It's essentially the family that stays together and inhabits a specific area, their territory. A coalition of lions is different, though. Coalitions of lions form from male lions only, and they are generally related lions. Oftentimes it's a group of brothers. Now, coalitions of lions are most common 2 to 3. So 2 to 3 male lions form a coalition, and then they become the heads of a pride of lions. In addition to those 2 to 3 males, the rest of the pride generally consists of 6 to 12 related female adult lions and their dependent offspring. It's true that the female lions take on most of the hunting responsibility. So what's the job of this coalition of male lions? What responsibilities do they take on? They are the protection, they are the security guards for their own pride. The male coalition of lions are the ones that seek out territories to take over, and they are the ones who defend their territories. If other coalitions threaten to take over their territory, that is when the males jump into play. Sometimes a threat is perceived, and the males can show their dominance by putting on a display of roaring. A lion's roar is a good defense, but if that doesn't do the trick, they will go to battle with the other coalition. Since many coalitions are 2 to 3 lions, as we mentioned, it will often come down to size, strength, and expertise in hunting. Hunting skills are used when fighting. However, there is another factor. What if another coalition of lions just plain outnumbers another? While strength of the individuals is important, strength in numbers is perhaps even more important, and that's where things began to get interesting in South Africa. The Mapogo Lion Coalition. There was a trend that began taking place primarily in South Africa. The trend was of mega coalitions. This meant that more frequently, we were starting to see coalitions of male lions that were more than just 2 or 3. We were seeing 4, and sometimes 5 male lions in a coalition. That was happening before the Mapogo Lion Coalition was formed, but they joined in on the fun. In fact, the Mapogo Lions came from a mega coalition, the Sparta Pride. That was a coalition of 5 males. But the Mapogo Lion Coalition kicked it up a notch when they formed. They were 6 males strong. It was 5 brothers, Kinky Tail, Mr. T, Rasta, Scar, and Pretty Boy, and then 1 half-brother. That was Makulu. He was the oldest and he was the leader. The Mapogo Lion Coalition was extremely dangerous. They learned how to successfully hunt large animals, including Cape buffalo, and they used those skills along with their impressive numbers to dominate other coalitions in the region. The Mapogo Lions sought out prides, initiated battle with the coalitions, and did immense damage everywhere they traveled. They killed hundreds of lions in their reign in the Sabi Sands. They took over pride after pride, controlling a vast area of Sabi Sands. Their empire was growing and growing. The land they ruled expanded far and wide. Everyone knew their legendary stories. They were not to be messed with. They weren't just taking over territories, they did so with brute force and with ruthless and almost sadistic methods. But as is always the case with a powerful empire, there was infighting. Makulu, the leader, and Mr. T began to fight a lot, and one day they had a violent battle which drove Mr. T off, and Kinky Tail followed. The Mapogos were separated into 2 groups. The group of 4 continued to thrive. The two who left, Mr. T and Kinky Tail, did see some success early on in the separation, but soon there was a new coalition they'd have to fight. It was another mega coalition, the Majingalani, 5 males strong, and though the two from the Mapogo managed to kill one, the Majingalani managed to team up on Kinky Tail and kill him, driving Mr. T off to rejoin his brothers. Mr. T rejoined the 4 Mapogo brothers, but soon after he took over control of the coalition. He became leader of the Mapogo and forced Makulu to a lesser position in the coalition. The coalition was still 5 strong, but was under new rule. Now, the Mapogo coalition was still the deadliest coalition Africa has seen in the modern world. But does that mean their reign would continue on? Does that mean losing a member and having a significant change in the structure of their coalition wouldn't mean a thing? Or was there a new coalition on the rise? Was the Mapogo coalition in danger? Rise of the Selati. We'll leave this moment in history for a moment. We'll leave the Mapogo Lion coalition, now 5 strong, and we'll head back in time to explore a completely different coalition, and it was a few generations ago. This coalition was the Roller Coaster Coalition. Now, they reached a point after several attacks that they were reduced to just 2 males. These males had already sired children with the females, but as they felt they couldn't defend their pride anymore, they left to pursue a different pride of females. These males that the Roller Coaster Coalition had sired began to mature, and as older males were not around, a different situation happened. Because normally the young males will reach a stage in maturity when they are pushed out of the pride and need to form their own coalition. But there were no dominant males, so they took over as the dominant males, and these males began to mate with their mothers and aunts. These males formed the Golf Course Coalition, and this pride became their own. From here, a few more interesting things happened. One was that they birthed many cubs. Among them were 5 males. The other was that the females of this pride were so self-sufficient due to the lack of the male's presence for some time before the children reached maturity. Self-sufficient in that they were able to hunt without the large male presence. Now, females often did most of the hunting, but there will often be a male that assists in hunting, especially with larger targets. But the females in this pride could take down a Cape buffalo all on their own. They taught these skills to the young males, and the young males absorbed all of this knowledge. The 5 young males grew, they matured, and they hit an age where they needed to form their own coalition. This was the birth of the Selati Lion coalition. However, unlike their fathers, they weren't abandoned. The Golf Course Coalition still ruled over this pride. The Selati males were not able to absorb this pride as their own, and they were pushed out. 5 male lions reaching maturity with excellent hunting skills taught to them by their self-sufficient mothers, the Selati Lion Coalition was ready to find prides and territories of their own. They weren't fully grown yet, but they had excellent hunting skills, and they had numbers. But were they ready to take on other coalitions? The Selati Clash. This was during the time of the Mapogo Lion Coalition reign of terror. Remember, they were fully grown and were dominating much of the landscape. They had controlled territories, and they had controlled prides. They were excellent hunters, they were powerful, and they were large, and they were 6 lions strong. The Selati consisted of 5 males, and were not as large and grown as the Mapogo. They had to choose their steps carefully, because they were no match for the Mapogo at this time. And if they entered the wrong territory, it could spell trouble for them. This was also during the time that the Majingalani were prominent in particular areas. Just like the Selati, the Majingalani were a 5-lion coalition. The Selati coalition wondered if the Majingalani were a match for them. Could they battle them, defeat them, take over their territory? So the Selati decided to do battle with the Majingalani, the much more experienced Majingalani. Unfortunately, the Selati had to find out the hard way that they were not yet a match. They tried to battle the Majingalani for their territory, and in the process, one of their own was killed. The Selati coalition was down to just 4 members, and they were forced to retreat. And though that was possibly one of the worst outcomes the Selati could have faced, it taught them the most important lesson. It taught them the best strategy that would ultimately lead to success for them: to wait. Patience was the new weapon of the Selati. They weren't big enough yet. They needed to wait. There were some events that still needed to play out. They needed to wait. The Selati remained close, in territories nearby, but they waited for the right moment. As mentioned before, there was the blow-up within the Mapogo, which sent 2 of the members off into their own territory. That led to those 2 members of the Mapogo clashing with the McCallion. The McCallion lost a member, and then the Mapogo lost one of those 2 members. The McCallion was now down to 4 members, and the Mapogo down to 5. When all 5 Mapogo members were reunited, they saw a leadership change. Mr. T took over. Now all of these lions were ruthless, but Mr. T was the most sadistic of them all. He was known to eat the cubs of pride that they attacked and took over. This was not common practice by lions. Who knows if Mr. T taking over as leader caused a rift in the Mapogo group, but they saw changes soon after he took over. Well, Rasta was the first to leave. No one was quite sure whatever happened to him. Perhaps the McCallion got him. Perhaps he suffered some other terrible fate. Maybe he just left. All that was known was that Rasta disappeared from the coalition. The group was down to 4 males. And then next was Scar. He left the reserve and wandered too close to a village. He was shot and killed by locals. The once 6-strong Mapogo coalition was down to 3. Mr. T, Makulu, and Pretty Boy. And the Selati coalition's secret weapon was working out wonderfully. Waiting. They had grown larger and felt they may have a better chance at attacking the Mapogo, especially since they outnumbered them. They may have been a bit gun-shy, but a specific event changed everything for them. The 4 Selati males found Pretty Boy alone and ambushed him. They were able to do some damage to him and exerted dominance over him. Now they just left him with some injuries as Makulu and Mr. T ran back onto the scene and the Selati males were chased away. But it was a success in their minds. The once untouchable Mapogo felt completely vulnerable, and the Selati had a massive boost of confidence. They felt ready. They continued to practice their new secret weapon, patience. Eventually, an opportunity arose. Mr. T was now alone and vulnerable, and the Selati pounced at the opportunity. They employed a strategy of having 2 of their members distracting him and then sending the other 2 in from behind to attack him. They'd bite and claw and do damage for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then retreat. They'd circle Mr. T, they'd wait, and then they'd do the same thing again. 2 members would distract him, while 2 went in to attack. They repeated this strategy over and over and over, weakening Mr. T more and more, until they killed him. And now the Mapogo coalition, the once deadliest coalition Africa had ever seen, was nothing but a pair of male lions. Makulu and Pretty Boy. The next time the Selati saw the remaining 2 members of the Mapogo, they chased them off their own territory. The enormous territory that once belonged to the empire of the Mapogo, it was stolen. It was under new leadership. The new rulers of the land were the Selati. The Mapogo coalition may have been the deadliest coalition ever, but they had a kryptonite. The remaining members had nightmares of the coalition that thwarted them and ended their reign. Everyone has nightmares, even the scariest of monsters, and for the Mapogo, their nightmares were riddled with the faces of the Selati Lion coalition.